Tudor's resurgence in the last decade has been one of the most notable success stories in modern watchmaking, being constructed off of the foundation set by their sports diver watches such as the Black Bay and the Pelagos. And for a while, it appeared that Tudor couldn't miss on any product release. But a few years ago, they released a model that has ultimately been neglected by most watch fans, with the Tudor Royal. So in this video, I want to talk a bit more about the Tudor Royal. Is it Tudor's black sheep, or a watch that is way better than many think? Now, the year 2020 was one that was hard to break through the preoccupation of the dramatically changing world that was at that moment, with many watch brands taking the wait-and-see strategy for watch releases given the collapse of Baselworld at the time. Tudor was a general employer of this plan and had one of the biggest releases of the year with their Black Bay 58 Navy, receiving immediate hype and attention upon its unveiling. Quietly making its way center stage that year also was the Tudor Royal, a name that actually dates back to the middle of the 20th century, though in this instance was designed to follow the growing reemergence of integrated steel sports watch design. Available now in many different sizes from 28 to 41 millimeters, different steel and gold variants and different dial colors, the Royal occupies a unique position for the brand that is closer to its entry price level, with much of the Royal collection coming in around $2,500 depending on that case size and case material option. Since its launch, it has had its select moments of attention. However, ultimately this piece has been a bit of an enigma for enthusiasts falling outside the conventional design language of modern Tudor to a point where it has been somewhat forgotten. No matter how you slice it, the first talking point here definitely is the integrated case and bracelet format. While I have said it enough times on the channel for my head to genuinely start hurting in some instances, the integrated trend still remains very much a thing in 2023, being inspired by those iconic watches in the 1970s. Ever the bastion of tradition, the Rolex organization and more broadly Tudor are less well established in the integrated arena, though there are a few historic examples leaning into the format, including the cult favorite vintage oyster quartz models from the Crown that definitely laid the groundwork for the modern Royal. Taking a closer look at the case itself, an almost flat and brushed top case gives way to the slanted planes at the 12 and 6 o'clock that meet at that 5-link bracelet design. Despite sharper angles on the front of the case, the sides are more rounded and complete with mirroring polish that undoubtedly share characteristics with the classic oyster case. Perhaps the most eye-catching element, a hybridized fluted engine turn bezel stands watch over the case top, comprised of alternating mirror polish blocks with fine line recessed squares. At 3, a screw-down 5.7mm crown means this is more of a refined watch, but is still capable of 100 meters of water resistance, an excellent metric that makes it eligible to be included in that integrated steel sports class further. Meeting the case at around 24 millimeters in width, the bracelet is, as is often the case with Tudor, very solid for its price. Comprised of solid links with a brushed finish for the wider links and polishing for the smaller pair of inner links, the Royal bracelet drapes to the wrist incredibly well, falling away from the central case without adding any length and balancing its flexibility with a substantial enough feel for the luxury tier. With screwed adjusted lengths, the bracelet tapers to a slender 16 millimeters at the clasp, offering solid components as well as a latching mechanism with Tudor's ceramic inserts. Given the more hidden clasp format, micro adjustment isn't going to be present here, but the smaller size of the individual links that are more of the conventional size of half links should mean that finding a perfect fit is going to be no issue for most people. In addition to being in line with its $2,500 price, this 38mm diameter also presents a wearing experience that is great on a smaller to medium-sized wrist, with other sizing options available for those that fall to more of the extremes. With all of these Royal models wearing more true to size thanks to the hollow cut hinge points in those end links that enables the bracelet to shoot straight down on the wrist. Set beneath the safety of a sapphire crystal, the Royal's dial is a hard one to classify, giving off a much more dressy appearance compared to others of this case ilk. Set over a sunray primary surface that is elegant with the metallic shade of salmon, slightly raised Roman numeral hour markers sit nearly flush to the dial inside the black railway minute track. These numerals would otherwise feel rather printed if it wasn't for their polished nature, giving them a bit more of a three-dimension effect. At the center, a pair of faceted hands manage the time of day, with each making room for a small sliver of luminescent material. Rare for modern Tudor, the dial text is almost non-existent, with nothing other than the brand's wordmark and shield logo at 12, and at 3, a step date window. Turning the watch over, we have another one of Tudor's almost completely sterile casebacks, leaving room for a custom engraving while protecting a reliable third-party caliber oscillating away just within. With Tudor increasingly leaning into manufactured calibers in recent years, the Royal manages its more competitive price point first and foremost with the Movement, a straightforward third-party option from Sellita. Up until recently, the majority of third-party movements utilized by Tudor in watches like the non-diving Black Bays and the first iterations of the 1926 family came from Etta. But given Etta's tendency to limit who they supply to, Tudor most likely decided to go in another direction like many others in the industry, switching to Sellita-based calibers. Now, one of the fastest growing names in the watch industry in the last decade, surprisingly, is a movement supplier, Sellita, now providing watches to the likes of small brands to big players. And the Sellita SW200, the company's answer to the Etta 2824, is now one of the most ubiquitous automatic Swiss calibers on the market today, being used in millions of watches. Although certainly a step behind Tudor's current MT lineup of calibers, the Sellita will cause very little reason for concern. In terms of general specifications for the SW200, it operates at 28,800 vibrations per hour, 4 Hertz. It does feature hacking and hand winding. Hacking stop in the second hand when you pull the crown to the farthest position, and has a power reserve of 38 hours. Now, while Tudor makes no specific claims for the accuracy of these third-party calibers, we did test this example across 5 different positions, revealing a solid level of accuracy between +3 to +7 seconds a day when testing across 5 different positions. So the pending question throughout this video for me is, who is the Royal watch intended for? Although I have no access to the specific sales data, and I don't believe there's going to be really any surprise, or it'd be far-fetched to say that the Royal is far behind models like the Black Bay or the Pelagos, which makes sense in a lot of ways. This is a watch that's tough to place in one area. You have a well-done case and a dial that is far from distasteful, but in certain formats, it can look like a confusing mashup where the watch seems almost uncertain what it wants to be. But then again, it does have some points going for it and a reason for it to get some attention. Its dipping of its toes on both the dress and the sports side of the pond make it a good candidate for those that want an everyday watch with more capability to dress up than normal for watches of this style. Which, speaking of the integrated approach, it is also hard to believe that one of the most desired watch types at the moment only has one model that falls underneath the broader Tudor Rolex umbrella, this Royal. And it just also so happens to be on one of their most attainable watches. So should this be the most ignored Tudor watch? In some ways, it does make sense why a lot of people neglect this piece. It follows a less requested path from the brand, but that less requested path in turn might also be a reason it will be an interesting one to go for and one to travel for those that want a versatile watch, the only integrated steel sports watch from the broader Tudor Rolex organization, and might make sense for those that want to say, hey, I own a Tudor, without necessarily screaming it and going for the usual suspects. But all right, guys, that's my take on this Tudor Royal. I'd love to see your take down below. What do you think of this model? I know many people don't really talk about this at all, which it is in itself kind of interesting in terms of being a case study and why this maybe doesn't get as much love as some other models from the brand. Leave some comments down below. Love to see your take on this. If you are an owner of this piece, love to see why you decided to go for a Royal. Also, if you enjoyed the content, be sure to give the video a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Really would appreciate that. Also, check out TeddyBaldassarre.com, full authorized dealer of over 30 brands, quick and fast fulfillment, dedicated customer support, and a full factory warranty for all the products that we offer. Also, how we're able to fund all of our productions here is through selling watches on our site. So if you want to support us, are in the market for a watch, we'd love to have your business because it allows us to keep doing what we're doing here. We love what we do. But guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.